You're listening to Soulful High Performance with Dr. Rosie Mead. This is the place to be if you want to discover how to level up and achieve lasting success on your terms without the stress. I'm determined to share with you the tools, habits and mindset that you need to take your life to the next level so that you too can become a soulful high performer.
Hi, welcome to today's Daily Vibe. I hope that you're having a lovely day. I'm out on a walk at the moment, so you'll probably hear some sounds of the nature going on around me. It's lovely. I can't stop talking about how nice the weather is at the moment with the sun, and where we live, we're on like an old, don't live very far from an old trailway, and so we often come along and walk along here and take the dogs down here. And for me, it's always been a really nice transition from finishing work for the day, and John's turn to settle the girls tonight. So going from kind of that work and then mum mode to that transition in the evening where we probably get about an hour and a half together before we go to bed. So we go to bed quite early because I get up early, and I think years ago when our youngest was waking up at 4:30, we decided instead of fighting it and going to bed really late and then waking up really tired, we'd just go to bed early, and that stuck. So we always go to bed about 9 o'clock, and I nod off super quickly, and that's actually really interesting from a brain perspective, because I was listening to Jim Quick this morning on a podcast, and he was saying he nods off in less than 4 minutes. And I do. I mean, John can be talking to me sometimes in bed, and I've already gone, and it's probably like 2 minutes since I got into bed. And Jim Quick put it down to doing like lots of meditation and mindfulness practice and focusing on breathing and things, that it's become a kind of second nature that he nods off really quickly. So from that, I was really intrigued to see it probably has been helping me to nod off as well. So if you find that sleeping is an issue for you, looking into meditation would be good. But that wasn't what the focus of today's Daily Vibe was going to be about. I'm just stopping for a minute because I think that there might be a squirrel. I don't know if you can hear it. So this is probably a bit of a rubbish podcast because you can't see what I'm watching. No, it is in there. There's a squirrel, I think, or some kind of little creature who's hiding. Anyway, before I spend this podcast just stood for minutes watching nature that you can't see because you're listening to this, I will carry on with my walk. But that's what I started off by saying about the trailway. That's what I love about walking down here, is that there's that real sense of peace, of being out in nature, listening to the sounds, which is why I really like recording this podcast when I'm out on a walk, because I'm hoping that you feel that you're on the walk with me. Maybe you are listening to this while you're on a walk. But wherever you are, you can also hear the sounds of nature that are around me. So there's just been a butterfly that nearly flew into my face, but then flew past. The sun is just starting to set behind the trees, and it's lovely and shady where I am. So the point of today's podcast is about the importance of learning. And I think we don't put enough emphasis on taking time to learn, whether that's reading a book or doing a course, going to an event, talking with someone who's maybe already on that path that you're heading on, or kind of is further along the path that you're on. It's very easy for us as high performers to get caught up in the wheel of always moving, being busy, getting lost in our to-do list, which I spoke about before with the kind of importance of focusing on one thing at a time. But it can be very easy for us to get lost in all of that, and telling ourselves that we need to constantly be focusing on whether it's like income generating activities or it's physical training or whatever it is, and becoming so blinkered that our focus is on that and not on expanding. Now, it's not to say that we then swing the other way and we focus all our attention on personal development, on self-growth. But I think that sometimes we need to have this intentional imbalance, which is spoken about in the 12-week year, if you read that book. And I like the term tilting as well. So there are times where we need to go all in on a certain aspect. And I think kind of for us to make time for going all in on our personal growth, making time for learning, making time to kind of have these experiences that are going to grow us, and reminding ourselves, so remembering to kind of bring our mind with us, because our brain needs to be on board with this in order for us to take action. But reminding ourselves that if we do this, this is going to amplify our performance. This is going to help us to bring in the income that we desire. This is going to help us to improve our physical performance, to win the game, to beat our personal best, whatever it is. That you can't just be focused on just one element of your high performance. Personal growth is such a huge part of that. And so taking time, making time to learn, reading is one of the best ways. And it's absolutely amazing for your brain. So Jim Quick talks about reading does for your mind what physical exercise does for your body. And this is so true. But I think often we tell ourselves that we're not great at reading. And this stems from our childhood normally. We tell ourselves that we're not quick readers, that we don't absorb information that way. But actually what it comes down to is just we haven't been taught how to learn. So this goes for reading and courses as well. But we haven't been told how to optimize our brain to learn in the best way, and the best way that's suitable for us as well, because the way that I learn might be completely different to the way that you learn. But as a starter on the reading side, so there's kind of recommendation that if you read just 10 minutes a day, you're going to get much faster at your reading, your comprehension is going to go up, and let's face it, you're going to get through books really quick. You could probably get through a book a week, maybe not with 10 minutes a day. Depends how long the book is. But you can see where I'm going with it. Also, if you say you're going to read for 10 minutes, chances are you're actually going to get stuck into it, and it's going to be at least 10 minutes, and you might read for like 30 minutes, in which case you will hit that reading one book a week. And one way to get started with reading quicker and comprehending faster is to use a visual pacer. So using your finger or a ruler, it's the stuff that we did at school to begin with, that I think then we were told not to do that anymore because it would slow us down. But actually the opposite is true. So try it. Just time yourself like 2 minutes, grab a book, like a fiction book, something that's just quite easy to read. Time yourself for 2 minutes, and without using your finger or a ruler, see how many lines you read in 2 minutes. Now do the same, but this time put your finger under the line. As you're reading, move your finger from left to right, and then move down left to right, and keep going. And then see how many lines you read in 2 minutes. Now I can guarantee that you're going to read more lines in those 2 minutes using the visual pacer. I'm guaranteeing it because I know from Jim Quick that this works for his students. I know that it works for myself, and I realised that it, from my own experience, my reading went up like quite significantly when I was doing this every day. Now, I can't do it for all books. So like fiction books, I still really like just sitting down and reading it slowly, but also with a fiction book, it doesn't matter if I take months sometimes to read, because going back to my earlier point of falling asleep quickly, I will read before I go to sleep when I'm in bed, but often that means I might only read a couple of sentences or like 2 pages maximum. So it does take me a long time to read a fiction book unless I actually sit down. But I quite enjoy reading kind of slowly with a fiction book. But with non-fiction, you know, with personal development, if you're reading a book that's on your high performance subject, which I really, really recommend you do, every single week, read a different book, then this seriously is a game changer. Using your finger, what happens is that normally when we read at the speed that we talk. And, you know, you have like that internal voice. Hopefully it's your own voice, not someone else's. It's not like your life's narrated. Although that would be quite cool. I'm now trying to think who would I want to have as my... Morgan Freeman would be good, reading my stories. But you know, like when you're reading and you hear that internal voice, and sometimes do you ever find that your mouth moves? So my tongue will often move as if I'm saying it. So then what happens is that we read at the speed that we talk at, and our speaking voice is a lot slower than our thinking voice. So if you start using your finger, now every time I say finger and visual pacing, I'm moving my finger as I'm walking along the trailway. I probably look like I'm conducting or something. But when you start using that, you then start to read much quicker than your speaking voice. And that kind of inner voice that you normally get will go quickly as well, because it just can't, your speaking voice can't keep up with the thinking voice. Now, to begin with, it will feel really strange because you're moving your finger quite fast, but what's happening is your eyes are following your finger. And as your eyes are following your finger, it's taking in those words. This is really incredible. It's taking in those words, and those words are basically symbols. You know, when you're driving along and you see a stop sign, you don't read stop. You see the symbol and you stop. And it just becomes an instinct. It's exactly the same with using a visual pacer. You'll start to see those characters, you know, kind of common words, because, and, if, why, I don't know, words that you've kind of come across before. You don't have to think about, you don't have to try and comprehend or, you know, decipher. You're literally just going to take all that in. And what it means then, if you read, even if you just read for 10 minutes a day, you're going to take in so much information that then becomes your knowledge. And then knowledge only becomes power when we apply it. So this is Jim Quick's thing about knowledge is only potential power. You know, there's all these memes and quotes going around on Instagram, knowledge is power, but actually that's not true. Knowledge is potential power, and it only becomes power when we apply it. So if you take in that information that you're reading from a book, the next thing to do is to do something with it. So write down notes, put down some actions. You know, why is this important? So the thing that you've just read, why is this important to me, and how can I apply it? And then go share it with someone else as well. That kind of accountability, teach it to someone else, which is exactly why I love making podcasts. I love making reels, because I'll often do a course and then I'll share it with you guys. So go away today and try this visual pacer. See how you find it with your reading. Now, I must admit, it took me a couple of attempts to get kind of used to it and comfortable. That first time is pretty much like just a practice, just getting used to moving your finger. And like move your whole arm when you do it, so you're not getting tired. But then when you get used to it, it's seriously a game changer. And if you can read a book a week, think how amazing that is. So I don't know if you're anything like me. I am amazing at buying books. I buy books all the time. I've had to actually stop myself now, and I've just kept a book list on Amazon, because I was buying a book every single day, or a couple of books. And there was a period where loads of books were arriving. They'd go on my shelf. My shelf looks amazing. It's filled with personal development books and sales books and business books, high performance books. I could set up a library. I'm amazing at buying books. I have not, up until recently, have not been good at reading them. And there's a thing about kind of, they're not self-help books anymore, they're shelf-help. Don't let your books become shelf-help. Go and actually make time to read them, and then start actually taking that knowledge and then applying that knowledge, and that is your superpower. So let me know how you get on with using the visual pacer. I'll be popping more information on Instagram as well, so if you're listening to this episode as it's coming out, go check out some of my Instagram posts on it, some reels as well. But yeah, it's super simple. It's a really simple tool, but ultimately an absolute game changer. If we're going to perform at our best, we need to read, we need to learn, we need to acquire knowledge, and this is an amazing way to do it. Now, of course, you can listen to audiobooks as well. The downside of audiobooks is that we tend to do other things. We're trying to kind of multitask while we're listening to an audiobook, which, as I said before, is really difficult. Our brain just can't compute the two. So if you do listen to it as an audiobook, sit down while you're listening to it. Have a notebook nearby. It's great to listen to audiobooks in the car, but the downside, I find this, is that there'll be some real golden nuggets of information, and then you haven't got a notebook to write it down. So try and make some time. Again, you could say you're going to sit down for 10 minutes a day and listen to an audiobook. And the other thing with the brain, so I was saying about using the visual pacer, obviously if it's an audiobook, you're not going to have that, but you can take in much more information by speeding up the playback, which again, to begin with, is going to seem really bizarre, but your brain is going to take that in. As long as you're free from distractions, you could put it at 1.5, 2 times speed, and your brain is going to take in all of that information. And again, you could get through heaps and heaps of books. Think about how many books you could get through in a year. If you start today, just 10 minutes a day is a game changer. And I don't say this lightly, but I think it's a life changer too. Anyway, let me know. I'm going to pootle back home now and go and do a bit of strength workout, I think, because my mind has now kind of transitioned, and now I want to make sure that my body's in peak performance too. So I've got to practice what I preach. Have a lovely evening, and I will catch you in tomorrow's Daily Vibe.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you loved it, share it with at least 3 friends. Grab a screenshot, share, and don't forget to tag me. You can find me on all social channels at Dr. Rosie Mead. I'd love to support you further in your soulful high performance journey. Come and grab my free Success Without Stress starter kit. You can find the link in the show notes.